Hello, everybody. Michelle, welcome. I know you're the one who posted first on here. So, welcome, Michelle. This is going to be a great conversation that we're having. But first, let's go ahead to go to my intro. Welcome to Level Up Academy podcast, where we explore the diverse set of skills that can be applied across various industries and professions. Each episode will deep dive into the world of transferable skills, discussing topics like communication, problem solving, critical thinking, and more. Join us as we speak with experts in different fields and share stories of individuals who have successfully transferred their skills from one industry to another. Whether you're a recent grad, a mid-career professional, or someone looking to make a career change, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and let's discover how you can leverage your existing skills to excel in any industry. Welcome to Level Up Academy podcast. This is your host, Dr. Leland, a serial educator, an opportunities designer, and a compassionate leader.
Are you a career student eager to learn new skills and make your mark on the world? Or are you a professional seeking to advance your career and unlock your potential? You need to be equipped with effective soft skills like communication, problem solving, teamwork, and more. The Level Up Academy by Doc Leland bridges the gap between education and employment through transferable skills training. Get the soft skills you need to be more effective at work.
Don't you love that? Don't you guys love that? Welcome everybody. Batenga, I know you're in Africa and I wish that I just added you on WhatsApp, but I couldn't find your WhatsApp information. You wouldn't linked. I do want to hear the kids. I know that you're taking care of the kids there in your neighborhood, and you have a big heart. So thank you for taking care of those future presidents and business leaders in our community. But if you are in LinkedIn and you're going to send me a message, let me know. I'll be happy to come over and set you up here to say hello. Hi, Yvette. Good morning. Michelle, good morning. I know you're here. Also, Henna, hello, sister. It's going to be your turn tomorrow. So I'm glad you're here today. Today, I usually do my shout outs, but I'm going to skip the shout outs today because I want to take that time to read a message that I wrote in regards to um, domestic violence, because that is the conversation we're having today. My mic seems like off. Maybe I'm just a little off today too, but this is my message before I will bring out our sister, right? And she will be talking about her own thoughts on domestic abuse as a survivor herself. But this is my message. You are not alone, embracing your strength and freedom. In the midst of darkness that domestic abuse brings, there is a flicker of hope that burns within you. Today, I want to remind you that you are not alone. You have the strength within you to break free from the chains that bind you and embrace a life of freedom and empowerment. No one deserves to be subjected to abuse. And it's important to remember that the fault lies solely with the abuser. You are not to blame for your actions, and you do not have to carry the weight of their cruelty. You deserve love, respect, and a life filled with happiness. You have the power to rewrite your story. It may seem daunting, but step by step, you can regain control over your life. Reach out to the support systems available to you. It could be a friend, a family member, or a helpline. They are here to listen, understand, and guide you towards safety and healing. Believe in yourself and your resilience. You are capable of reclaiming your identity, and rebuilding your life. Surround yourself with positive influences, engage in self care, and invest in your own well being. Seek professional help to heal the wounds inflicted upon your spirit and regain your sense of self worth. Remember that healing takes time and there will be ups and downs along the way. But with each small victory, you grow stronger. With each step forward, you reclaim a piece of yourself that was lost. You are not defined by the abuse you've endured, but by the courage you possess to rise above it. Together, let's shatter the silence and break the cycle of abuse. Your voice matters, and your story deserves to be heard. By sharing your experiences, you empower others to speak up, seek help, and find solace in knowing that they are not alone. You are a survivor, and your resilience is awe inspiring. Embrace the journey towards healing, liberation, and a future filled with joy and love. Believe in yourself and know that the brighter days lies ahead. You deserve a life free from abuse, and we stand beside you, supporting and cheering you on every step of the way. Remember, you are strong, you are brave, you are worthy, and most of all, you are not alone. So that is the message that I wrote for you out there, whoever is watching this. Um, I know I'm like trying not to be emotional today, but Anastasia has blessed us with a movie that I wanted to show you guys. Um, give me a second. Let's see if I can show it. I'm very like somewhat emotional right now, so I apologize. Are you guys seeing the screen? Yes? All right. So let's go ahead and watch. This is Anastasia's work, and she will be joining us in a minute.
3.5 years not working. I found that he belonged to a group that taught men how to drug their girlfriends or their wives and then arrange situations where other men could come over and rape them while the husband or the boyfriend watched. You're incredible. Get dressed up. And he'd take me out to my favorite steak place. And meanwhile, he would have conversed with 3 other people to be at the same place to check me out, to be able to facilitate what could be done to me. Again, all without my knowledge and all without my consent. I discovered 8 years that from the very moment that we met, he had been doing this. I also discovered there were nights I did not remember.
He would tell me how I feel. And he started brainwashing me like, well, you feel this way, I can feel it. And I'm like, no, oh, you're just disconnected from your emotions. Like I can feel it, like you're angry. And he would like create this situation. And then he was as well spiritual and he was using all this stuff in a very dark way to manipulate me too. And, you know, I knew it wasn't true, but he was so convincing that I did lose it, you know, with him too, like believing a lot of stuff because I didn't want to just discredit it, you know, and I wouldn't manipulate him like that. So it even didn't occur to me somebody would manipulate you this way. That's so dark. How can you do this to another person? You know?
And I wasn't seeing things as red flags and recognizing them. And unfortunately, that person took full advantage of my inability to see this or my ability to appease it. And when I knew he was somebody that was in my life, he was also somebody that had status above me within the military. He had higher rank than I did. And I didn't put him in that position. So I trusted him.
He pulled a knife on my son and said it was a joke. First, he yelled at me and said that it didn't happen while it was still happening. While he had the knife in his hand, he said he didn't do what he's doing right in front of me. And then he said it was a joke. Well, why is it important? It's not important.
I really thought it would be the end of my life. I really thought I had no friends and no family and I couldn't do anything. You are stronger than you think.
What the judge did, they created a boundary, which I wasn't able to create. And for the first time, I felt safe.
Do I deserve such a relationship, or do I deserve better?
What helped me the most?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. Crystal, hi. I think you're new to my live. Welcome. Yeah, I'm kind of emotional. I'm like trying not to be emotional, but it is an emotional thing. So without further ado, I'm gonna bring the lady, the queen of the hour. Are you guys ready? Just to lighten a little bit. Hello. How are you, Anastasia?
It's a privilege to be here. And hey, Crystal, thank you for coming, and thank you to all participants of Expose. And because without you guys, this documentary could not happen. So thank you. And thank you, Constance, for spreading the word. How are you?
Yeah, it's quite an emotional video. I actually, yeah, I'm like, I'm lost for words, and I have a lot, and I have a lot to say, but I'm just lost for words. So I'm just gonna start with my first question to you. And this is, think back 20 years ago and find within your timeline some of the significant changes in your life that got you here where you are today.
Well, I'm 29, so I was like 9 years old.
Okay, 10 years.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when I was 19, that's when I moved to Barcelona to pursue my psychology degree. And that's when I met the first abuser, who at the beginning claimed to, want to be my life coach and help me for free to be successful. And there is something what we call in psychology like grooming, and that's when the person targets you, they gain information about you and trust, and then they fill up the need. And after they fill up the need, the abuse starts. Hi, Michelle. Good morning from the West Coast. Yeah. So I'm talking about the grooming because he filled up the need of first me not having a dad. My dad took his life when I was 2. So that coach was like 20 years older. And obviously I had some daddy issues. I needed some attention. And second need he filled up was, he knew that I was coming from humble family. So he knew I wanted to help my brother struggling with some mental issues and my mom. So he gave me those fake promises, like, if you stay with me, if I will be coaching you, you will make this amount of money, you will be successful. Then he would manipulate and say that God is using me to change your life. Like, if you reject me, you reject God. And that's another spiritual manipulation. And so that was one of those relationships. It took me 4.5 years to leave it because of, first, he isolated me from my friends and family. So nobody knew what was happening. And I didn't know it was abuse because of the trauma bond, which is so huge, which I talk in the Expose documentary about, in the experts videos, which is basically addiction. It's a love addiction. It took me another 3 relationships later on to break that. And I'm still struggling with that, with keeping my boundaries, basically, because that's what it comes to. If we have strong boundaries, whoever comes into your life and propose you, a candy, something what might look like, oh, I would like that. you just know, your body knows. Because in each of those situations, I had this feeling of my tummy being a little upset and feeling like, I don't know what it is, but this person hides something. But I will not listen that because of the cognitive dissonance, which you probably are very familiar with, when we trust the first impression. Like if that person at the beginning was charismatic, nice, there are many times people who are very influential. There are people in politics, there are people who are who we look up to. And it's so hard to believe that they have, another side. So that was, one of those experiences, the incident in Barcelona. And then when I left in 2018, December 6th, that's when I finally left that relationship. I promised myself that I'm going to give life through this documentary to not only my story, but to find another survivors. So I had that dream, just like Martin Luther say, I had a dream one day. And, it took me those, now we have 2023. So it took me those 5 years almost, right? And a lot of healing. I did, meanwhile, my own therapy, like EMDR, and I met incredible women, Krista, and some of you watching. I don't have the access to chat to see the names, but Nicole. And you know what helped me also? Another thing which helped not only the expose documentary, but in my own healing journey, is the sense of community. And I discovered that you are never alone. Just like you said at the beginning when you were reading that poem, you wrote that you are never alone, that those experiences can connect us. Krista is writing, my coaching program is called Phoenix Together We Rise. Yay, Phoenix. Yeah, that's a symbol of raising above. So if that answers your question.
Yeah, I wanted to read this from Yvette. I just watch him. I would watch her and Gabe. I think of him because Gabe was just so funny. She's saying she's a survivor. My first daughter's father was physically abusive. I was with him for 2 years. I broke it off when I got pregnant. I almost got back with him once when my daughter was 3, but when he pushed me and spit in my face, I never let him see me or my daughter again until she was 21. He's a different person today, and I have forgiven him. Not many abusers ever change, but I know he has. That's a good thing, because sometimes we do make mistakes because we're young, or maybe we're into drugs or alcohol. Sometimes that kind of changes your personality, or maybe you have mental issues that also kind of change your personality. But I truly believe, and I'm not making excuses, but I truly believe that these people also or abused when they were children. And then they got into that, but there's no excuse to hurt other human beings. I think they should reach out for their own mental health and well-being and wellness, so that they can be in a positive light, because that's not a life to live where everyone is away from you and afraid of you because you're an abuser. You know what I mean? And it's not just men, women too can be abusive. And I've seen that, and it's not a good thing either. Michelle said, this is a lot, but I'm so happy that those women are courageous, right? From the thing. Michelle says, I'm a 2-time domestic violence survivor. Crystal is here. So I'm glad that she's over here as well. Now, my next question to you really is, what is
I also wanted to add that I like to call anyone who've been through those abusive relationships, that if you are here, you are a thriver, because you are looking for community to connect, and you are just sharing your story. You just shared your story, and you are creating impact. So know that you are a thriver. I just wanted to add that I celebrate you and your journey.
Thank you. We celebrate it because it takes courage, right, to say and share your story when knowing strangers are looking at it and watching it.
And I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes we are, sorry, I interrupt you a second time, but sometimes I feel like when we connect in a community and share, it's this therapeutical. You're a psychologist, so probably you know, like the group therapy, but here you are never judged because we all been through it. So no matter how many times you went back, we get it. We get it. And we are there for you when you are ready to leave. And it's also, yeah, like I get the point of, you know, owning your victimhood because of it takes some grief and sadness to express all that when you are getting out. So it's almost impossible to just get over it because we are going to repeat that pattern somewhere else. And I had to heal like physically because I also was physically abused in that relationship, sexually because I was raped by that coach. And as a result of that, I had to do abortion. And I almost feel that when we gather in a community, that we get to create our own justice because we see each other, we believe each other, we don't question each other because we recognize that when we gather, and it takes so much to open, it takes so much of like vulnerability because anytime you share your story, you kind of expose yourself that there can be some predator listening to that and then, you know, reach you out. So so that's the point I wanted to mention, that the community is so important because maybe you will never get justice through the court. But if you are able to find another individuals who've been through what you've been through with some therapists or psychologists in that group, that might help you to just feel that there's nothing wrong with you, because we many times get out of these relationships feeling like, what's wrong with me? Like I felt, am I not lovable? Or maybe I should be, you know, not that I don't deserve love. And we are conditioned, especially, I know it happens to men as well. And I had 10 men in this documentary who've been through abusive relationships. But somewhere we as a women, we're conditioned to believe it's our fault because the attention in, like, we have to change, we need to be kinder, we need to be nicer, we can have better communication skills. So it's always, you know, ongoing through generations, centuries. Women, you know, when you look back in the history, women couldn't have their own bank account. They have to be submissive to our men. You had to, you know, like even 100 years ago, women, the movement, I don't want to go into the movement of feminism, but I think we're taking steps forward to create a better future for our daughters. And that's why creating the communities and when somebody shares their story, to celebrate them instead of attacking them, it's what it takes for the system to change.
I'm glad you share that, because there's a lot of pain. I could see a lot of pain in you, and I know a little bit of your current story, but I wanted to address, and a lot of people who are here right now have experienced abuse, but for those who have not, you're lucky if you have not. In your own definition, what is domestic abuse and why is it essential to address it?
So I have someone in the first thing in my mind, it appeared Des Stevens. She's in my documentary. Crystal knows Des Stevens. She defined abuse as if somebody tries to give you something what they don't want and they try to give it to you and you accept it, that's abuse. But in my own words, abuse, it's something, it happens anytime when you allow somebody to break your boundary, when you feel that your body tried to send you some signal, but you, instead of expressing and saying, hey, I don't like when you behave this way, you suppress it. And that's my definition of abuse, when we are not listening to our body and allowing somebody to cross our boundaries.
Yeah, I think some people, I think at the very beginning when my best friend was going through that too, and she ended up homeless for a bit with her 3 kids, is that you always just think abuse is physical, but it's actually a lot more mental, emotional, verbal, financial. I mean, it's crazy how there's so many ways that people get abused, and we just think, oh, it's okay because he hasn't hurt me, so it's fine. We make excuses for that. Michelle, definitely start your story. I think it's through story that you'll find your tribe. Welcome, Chris. Chris says, I grieve for all who suffer from domestic violence. It is one of the most painful things to experience in life, physically, mentally, and spiritually. True. I know from my own experiences, and it has never been easy to get out. And also to know that you have value, but you do. You are strong, you are wonderful, and you are loved. God be with all of you. Yes. Thank you so much for that. That is such a nice message.
And it's coming from a man. That's why, we celebrate you, and it takes so much for men, actually, even more, to share their stories, because you need to get over that toxic masculinity. That's how you say it, I think.
Yeah.
And just so I celebrate you, Chris, for speaking up, and because you are a model for somebody else, for a boy, for a young man who is right now watching the replay. So that's what we need right now: examples, people who are willing to stand up and speak the truth. And
and it is live, so he's here. The third one is, what are some common signs and red flags that may indicate an abusive relationship from your own experience and from the expose that you did?
Yes. So if somebody asks you, so I will describe it still through the grooming, because that kind of how many of the stories I had the opportunity to listen, and my own story, it started. And I will use my story to kind of keep it like neutral, let's say. The story from Spain. So that person, so if somebody asks you many questions and they never reveal, or they almost don't reveal anything about themselves, and they want to know so much about, like, where you're coming from, what's your background, if they're interested in your traumatic experiences from your childhood. Oh, I have Crystal. It's not so bad.
Oh, sorry.
It's not.
Yeah,
so
I'll just keep talking. I'll just keep all the messages in. Don't worry about reading them. Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
So if somebody try to invest, if you feel like intimidated by their questions, they make you very, I would say, personal questions about your religion, about your sexuality, or about your background, like your childhood. That's a red flag. If you feel like, hey, I don't know this person, they're trying, I feel like I'm investigated, because that's the feeling I many times had. In one moment, even that person at the very beginning asked me if I am a virgin, okay? And that should be a moment, red flag, I leave, correct? But because of me being a people pleaser and being submissive, like raising in Poland and Catholic Church, where women are more submissive to our men, like if the man asks you a question, you're supposed to answer. You cannot just walk out, right? Like that's kind of not nice behavior. So I haven't witnessed in my own surrounding women who have been empowered to don't respond when the men ask them. So I had a familiar pattern of giving out information just because of the ask, regardless my gut feelings. So the first step would be somebody question you, like ask you too many questions. The second one is when they try to isolate you. That's a huge one. If they try to find out what are the closest relationships you have, and then make you feel as if you shouldn't be seeing that person, that person is jealous about the closed soul relationship you just start to develop. The another thing is mirroring. If they start to make you feel like you are, and love booming, of course, is like you are the best thing I ever met. Like I have been waiting for you for so long, and I love you very quickly, and like you're queen of my world. They just adore you. It just feels like it's too good to be true, and we are on pedestal, and that's the moment when they fill up that need many times because we don't feel important enough or good enough. So if somebody puts us so high, we are like, wow. This goes back to our childhood because that's exactly the opposite how we felt, and our subconscious mind is boom, like feels dopamine, serotonin, happy hormones. So that's the love booming stage of being high, and it works like a drug. The another thing, is that helpful when I'm sharing the isolation, love booming?
Yeah, and Crystal actually said that before you said that. So that is a lot. Like I could see that, and that's why I always tell my friends too when they have little kids still. I have friends who have little kids still. That the first 10 years of your child's life affects the rest of their life. The first 10 years. There's study on it. I'm not just saying it just for the sake of saying it because I have 2 kids, but it's the first 10 years of your life affects the rest of your life. Whatever happens to that first 10 years of your childhood affects the way you feel, the way you do things, the way your mannerism, the way your moral beliefs are created. It does. And I wanted to go back and address about the importance of what you said about women's rights, right? Even in the world. But I wanted to focus more in the US, like
I
the
just want
women's rights. Go
I
ahead.
wanted to add a few more red flags. You
Sure.
can Google all the red flags, but the one red flag, because the red flags can change through generations because we have the cyber abuse and all the things coming up. The most important is, I feel like when it comes to red flags, that anytime you feel like something is uncomfortable or like somebody's crossing your boundary, that's a red flag. And and I have people like in the documentary talking, like Zoe Parsons, she is from UK, and she speaks about how she thought jealousy is a great thing when the guy is jealous about you because of they love you so much, they have so much passion, and jealousy is a massive red flag because that person wants to control you. Like it's another way of controlling, and just whichever red flag you will Google, it all goes back to feeling not safe around that person and feeling intimidated, that your boundaries are intimidated. The context can change, but it always go back to like, how do I feel when I'm around this person? Do I feel safe? That's why it's so important to continue, even if, to continue evaluating the relationships. And it could be any relationships, from romantic, parents, friends, business, to continue evaluating, because sometimes because of that cognitive dissonance, we stop checking with ourselves. Just like when you go to doctor once a year or once to your dentist once every 3 months, we don't have this habit many times of checking with our own self.
Yeah. Make sure that you guys watch those red flags. I wanted to go back on what you said about the US and the women's rights in the US. There's a timeline significance that I wanted to address since we're already in this conversation about women's rights and the movement in the US that has been instrumental in achieving advancement, right? There's still a lot of work to do with gender equality. And Sweden actually is number one at 91%. And the US is in the low. We're in the 29th out of the 100 plus. But there are a couple of things that I wanted to address. The suffrage movement fought for women's right to vote in the 19th Amendment of the US Constitution. This was ratified back in the 1920, right? Women just granted the right to vote in 1920, okay? And then reproductive rights. I know this is a very hot topic, and I actually went to another podcast about this, and it broke my heart because I have 2 daughters. Roe versus Wade back in 1973. They recognized the federal Supreme Court recognized the woman's constitutional rights to have access to safe and legal abortion, right? This right was faced ongoing debates and challenges. And then in this day and age, we got it reversed. Like mine's blown. Employment Equal Pay Act back in 1963, where it prohibits gender-based wage discrimination. And it's still persistent. Gender pay gap still happening today. Sexual harassment. It was the hashtag Me Too movement gained momentum. This was recent in 2017. Prevalence of sexual harassment and assault at work. It led to increased awareness, discussion, legal action against perpetrators, aiming to create a safer environment for women in various sectors. And then the Title IX back in 1972, which prohibits sex discrimination in education programs and activities that receives federal funding. And then the domestic violence, there is a legal protection and resources for survivors out there. And that's what we're talking about. Look at the Violence Against Women Act, VAWA, initially enacted in 1994. It took us this long, okay? Has provided funding for support on services, criminal justice responses, and prevention efforts. However, Anastasia did say that sometimes the court just doesn't do justice, especially with your mind, right? And then Maternity Leave Family Act in the US, it lacks federal paid maternity leave or FMLA, so it was built for women who are mothers who needs to leave to care for their children. And it's so weird because German women in Germany get 12 months to get FMLA, but in the US we only get like 12 weeks. It's craziness. And the last thing that I wanted to do is representation. Women's representation in politics and leadership roles has seen progress, but still we lag behind. And so if we wanted to make changes, that's where we need to start. And then I don't want to digress to our conversation, but how can we educate individuals about healthy relationships from an early age, or even now moving forward as someone who has gone through that?
And what kind of age, from early age? So we focus on the young children, let's say.
Yeah, maybe in the teens. That's really when they start liking boys. Like I've noticed my daughters start liking boys at like 6th, 7th grade, right? So maybe at that early age, my girls are pretty strong-willed. I said have standards. I know people in our community will tell you there's so much more women than men, and men have option to. And I said, listen, you don't give in to peer pressure. You don't give in to what they think it's popular and then hurt your feelings. You need to deserve and love yourself first more than anything. You deserve better. You deserve love. And if you don't have self-respect for yourself, it's easy to get swayed. I've seen some of their friends and they come to me crying like, Mrs. Leland, what should I do? And I'm like, well, let's talk about you first. Don't worry about the guy and what you want to revenge, because they're teenagers, right? They're like, we're going to egg his house. We're going to slash his tires. I was like, let's not go to jail today. Okay, juvie is going to where you're going to go. Let's not do that. Let's talk about better choices for you and why you got there in the first place. And I said, why are you not talking to your mom? And they're saying, I can't talk to my mom because I'm going to get in trouble. I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend anyway. Or I'm not going to talk to my mom because my mom loves my boyfriend. And I feel like if I tell my mom, then she's going to blame me for being bad in a relationship. Like as moms, as parents, we need to do better to make sure that our children and our daughters especially know that they can come to us no matter what. And for those moms who have boys, thank you for raising your boys. And I tell my cousin this, thank you for raising your boys to respect you as a mom and love you as a mom. Because when they don't care for you and they don't respect you, they won't respect their spouses or their girlfriend, for sure, right? But what about you? Like, what's something that you, in your experience, that you wish? I know that you lost your dad at a young age.
So,
And
yes.
yeah.
So, just like you mentioned right now, that you have a good relationship with your daughter. Like when something happens, she comes to you and you witness that some of her age mates, they don't have that connection and feeling of what, no matter what happens, I can go to my parents. So that's what it is. It giving safety our children to come to us. It starts, I would say, that age of the first 3 years of our life, and that, like you mentioned, 10 are important. Just that emotional attunement for us, is like when we speak about parents, that we are creating environment that we regardless if the child is happy or sad, we always welcome those feelings, so they feel like no matter what, I'm accepted, I'm important. Another thing is giving examples, because no matter what we say, children will see what we do. So I give you an example. My mom would, tell me about respecting myself, but then she will be, that's her third marriage, staying in a relationship where my stepfather was cheating on her. So I would, don't have really a good example, regardless that she was telling me things, how I should live my life. So there's a simple exercise we can do with any age of children or adolescents or adults, because some of, let's be honest, there are some people at the age of 60, 70 who never learned those skills of boundaries. So there's exercise which one of the experts in the expose documentary goes deeper. I will just speak the main layers. You can do it, may be useful for the listeners. That expert describes as when he was teaching his daughter, 5-year-old daughter, how to set up boundaries. And he says, whenever you feel like, when you feel in some way intimidated, he was trying to make her go, how do you say, like when you make like this?
Tickle. Tickle. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Tickle her and say, like, when you don't like it, tell me to stop it. So that's the verbal way of setting up your boundary. So he's giggling, she likes it, but then at one point she doesn't feel safe, or like too much, right? You cannot take it. So she says, stop it. Okay, that's the verbal one. The second one is doing just the same thing, that he's giggling her, but this time she has to physically protect herself. So he praised her when she actually pushed him away, even kick him. Okay, that's a way for us as a woman to feel safe, to actually physically defend ourselves. And I think I will not get into details, but I didn't learn that skill yet. And just a week ago, I had somebody who tried to, stranger, tried to push my physical boundaries, and I froze. I was not able to push him away because I didn't learn that skill yet, that it's okay for a woman to defend themselves physically, like a habit, because you do it so many times that becomes your familiar thing. So she will, push him away when she feels uncomfortable, that 5 years girl, and his daughter. And then the third one is looking for support. So this time he tells her, hey, when you feel uncomfortable, you have to call for your mom. So, he's giggling, and she, tries to stop him. He doesn't react. And then she runs to mom. It could be, any adult in the room. In this way, she learned and that it's okay. There is somebody, it's okay to look for help, that there will be always somebody who is there. And just that reaction, that kind of fight mode instead of freeze, that's what we teach children and any age of person who might be struggling with boundaries, and that protects us from getting freeze, like freeze mode. And I think in 80% of survivors of abusive relationships, we freeze, and that's what happened to me too. So I hope that helps, that exercise.
Thank you.
There's more to
Yeah.
that.
I like that exercise. Anything that they said in there, it's their mom. Like their school, when they go out of bounds and my daughter comes home and she's like, Mom, this happened. I was like, nope. And so I go to their school and I talk to their principal. I said, this is not acceptable. There was an incident that happened at school when my daughter, they wear a uniform, but she's living on the edge. Like her uniform is like barely making it uniform. And I was like, you're going to get in trouble. Anyway, that day she actually was wearing uniform, but her uniform was not the right color. Like a freshman has to have a different color than a senior. Like my daughter is a senior and a freshman. And so she got her sister's sweater because she was cold that day. But my daughter is a senior and the youngest is only a freshman. And so someone followed her in the bathroom and said, you're in, violation for clothes. And then she's like, okay, but why are you in the bathroom? Like, I need privacy, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, this is like not acceptable. My daughter said that. She didn't even go to the bathroom. She went to the principal and said, this is not acceptable. Call my mother or I'll have to call my mom. So I came and I said, that's not acceptable. First of all, why are you doing that? Right? This is a private moment that you can't, like, what is the reason for you to even not wait for her? And you went to the bathroom. I mean, it's still female, but I don't care. Right? And so it got blown out. And I went all the way to the superintendent, all the way to the owner of the school. I said, listen, I'm not the type of mom that you will push around. I will be loud. I will get other parents to be loud. You are not messing with me and my kids. It's just not happening. Last time she got in trouble, it was her fault. With a cell phone she's not supposed to use. So they went to the principal, got it, and the principal's like, you're not in trouble. You don't have to tell your mom. Everything is okay. He doesn't want me to, because I get loud. Like, I am not dealing with your nonsense. I'm not the type of parents that will lay down. It's just not it's because I grew up where no one defended me. So I had to defend myself. So I've been defending myself all this time. And I'm like, nope, that's not acceptable. Nope, that's not. And so my friends know, and they give their kids to me all the time to run around because they know I am not dealing with that. Here's the thing that is interesting. Paul asked, I'm curious, do you think it's because we tend to look at things for how we think they should be versus what they truly are? I think this is specifically on your experiences when you were actually talking about like love bombing and all that. What do you think?
I would like to hear more how to interpret it. Can you share a little more of? I don't know if Paul is still here, but it's I think it's looking at like sometimes when we think what should be versus what they are, meaning like, when you were talking about like, hey, we need love from our parents. We don't have love. Like I never had love from my parents because I didn't grow up with parents. So I have some issues. I have a lot of abandonment issues. Mm-hmm. And I usually with relationship, like I'm so good professionally, I have no problem. I have lots of boundaries. When it comes to my personal, I was a mess, right? But here's the thing is because if I feel that this relationship right now is not working, I tend to leave and abandon it before it's even saved, before anyone can talk and defend themselves. I'm gone. It's because I don't want to be abandoned anymore. I have that bad feeling when I was young. Mm-hmm. I feel abandoned. So if I feel even an inkling of abandonment, you won't see me in the horizon. I'm gone. Like that's me. I just leave because I'm like, you're not worth it. You're not worth my time. Goodbye. And so that's how I roll with anything, with friendship. Once I leave friendship, I don't go back. I don't care if I left you or you left me. It doesn't matter. I wouldn't even think about you for the second minute. You're not leaving in my head for free, rent free for all the crap that you're making me feel. It's not happening. So I always just like, bye. Right. But so here, sometimes when we make decisions like jealousy, or I think you made a comment about your friend in the expose that you interviewed, like, hey, sometimes, when a man is jealous, that's a good thing because they care. Is it, you think, because of what we think or versus what they truly are? I think it's what they truly are. Sometimes it's hard to see, right? If you're in that relationship and you're actually, like for me, abandonment is a big thing, right? So if I feel loved and I feel like I'm in it for a good, then I tend to stay, even if whatever that's happening, whatever abuse that's happening, then you tend to stay because you're in your head, you think they truly are loving you rather than like abusing you and controlling you. Yeah. And I don't know, Paul, if you were at the beginning, there is this interview with Lada when she was saying like, he will tell me how I feel. And then she says like, well, in some point I lost it. I can hear my echo.
You're echoing. You're not echoing on my end though.
Okay, just checking. Just checking.
Ah,
So, and one point she lost it. She started to think maybe I am angry, like maybe he knows me. That's what the feeling we have. We start to think that the another person knows us more than we know ourselves. And that goes to abandonment issues, because we abandon ourselves. We don't have the sense of being grounded or clear sense of identity. And instead of reparenting that, we start to trust that somebody else knows more about us than we know about ourselves. And also it goes back like, as she says at the end, like, how can I lost it because of I would never do that. So we mirror ourselves. We start to perceive others the way we are. So if our reality, we start to project on like, if like that person probably, we justify them also because of the cognitive dissonance, because they gave us so many proofs and flowers at the beginning and all that, love booming, that we start to gaslight ourselves.
yeah.
And try to what it is basically is repressing our body feelings and trying to cognitively make a sense, because our brain always goes to coherence. We always want to make a sense of something. So, and also another thing, that our first need is a need to belong and express ourselves. But the first one is to belong in the tribe. So if our tribe is that relationship, we still crave it. We'll make up stories and justify them just so we can feel that we are okay, we are fine. Maybe it was the last time. And that keeps repeating over and over again until, well, we are the one who like, that's where I am, honestly. I'm still learning that I have to listen to my body. And it's so simple, but it's not, because if we have been conditioned since, through the culture and gender, religion, to don't listen to our intuition, we are going to just keep repeating that. So it's scary to trust yourself when you were conditioned to don't trust yourself. It feels unfamiliar for our brain. There is actually no neural pathway in your brain for that. So you starting to, take the risk to leave when something feels off and be like, okay, you know what, I'm going to walk away and just start to create a new neural pathway to leave when something feels off. I had to also face this fear that, because my dad left me when I was 2, so I had a fear that people leave me. So I would please them and make sure that they will stay. That was my coping mechanism. I will compensate by pleasing others. And it's okay, realizing that it's good, and knowing it's not enough. Acting like in a ways you never acted before, walking away, is showing yourself that it is safe to leave, even though when your body might feel like anxiety separation and feels like, oh my God, it feels really uncomfortable. Like that now they don't like me. Now all that comes up to the surface. It always have been there. Now we are just letting it out.
Yeah.
And journaling, whatever works for you, having a community, having somebody to give a call when you feel like you need to contact that person, it really matters.
Yeah, I think you're right. Rewiring our brain takes habits, right? And commitment that I'm gonna love myself. I think a lot of now my head is spinning about like people pleasing, because I'm a people pleaser, and I'm at 50% now. I've been practicing that for about a good year. I'm old already, but it's just been a year that I learned my boundaries on people pleasing. I've always had attitude though, like since I could remember. When I don't like you, I don't like you. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care what you spread about me. It doesn't matter to me because you don't pay my bills, first of all, right? And you don't feed me, so you have no opinion of me that can hurt me. It doesn't matter, right? And I also learned that if you don't value people's opinion so much, when they do bad things to you, it doesn't hurt you as much and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't, right? When you value somebody so much and they just crush your heart because they did something horrible, your whole entire being, it's just like come crushing down. I've learned that. So I've always learned to have like 70-30 on people, like 70%, yes, I give you this trust, and 30%, you're like, you got to keep some for yourself, CJ. You can't give 100% of that. Because it's like time and time over again, I've learned lessons that I'm not going to stop loving or I'm not going to stop caring. And I'm a very caring person. I'm compassionate and I'm giving, that type of people. But I always have something in the back of my mind that people will always do things and reveal themselves and what their intentions eventually. So if you have people, like I have best friends since I was 5, like literally since we were 5, we talk every day. I have friends that are in college, but I also have friends that come and go within a season because it's just not worth having that friendship sometimes, right? But oh my gosh, we got 4 minutes left. Okay, so this is my last question.
And I also wanted to make you a question, but
Sure.
If you could share what helped you the most to break that pattern, because you mentioned 50%. So
people pleasing?
Yeah.
I stopped caring.
Okay.
I stopped caring. I used to care a lot, like all of these things. It stresses me out. I literally break out. Oh my God, what if they don't like me anymore as a friend? Oh my God, what if they don't like me as a teacher? Oh my God, what if they don't like me as a dean? Oh my God, I have all that. And what if my kids hate me because I scolded them today? I am a mom yeller. Yes, I yell at my kids. Okay, they're bigger than me. And let me tell you, when I go off, I go off. My neighbor can hear me and I don't care. I'm like, you too? Do you need that talk from me today too? Like, I will get in your face. But I think it's just because I have attitude. That's probably what it is. But people pleasing for me at a 50% is because I stop caring what other people think of me, so long as I am not hurting you, so long as I am not intentional on malicious and like making drama out of you or anything like. I don't have time for that anyway. I have way too many projects that are positive, right? But I really started looking at myself. What is important to me? What is my mission in life? Are you helping my mission? No? Okay, bye. That's really as simple as that. Don't complicate it because your brain gets complicated. And then I go analysis by paralysis. I think too much and I can't dig myself out. I'm like, okay, just get out of that. Get out of that thought. And I think it's that feeling bad about yourself and sometimes it's lonely because you're on your own. You just feel like you're by yourself. You're on your own and that no one ever understands you. But at the end of the day, you were born first here by yourself and you're also going to die by yourself. You have to take care of yourself and no one will, right? And people pleasing is something that we all do. I don't care who you are, but at the same time, you need to have like that boundaries. Just stop caring what other people think of you. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, they will always like you or hate you. Yeah.
And that's that reparenting. All what you said is, wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I tell my kids, I'm like, it doesn't matter what your friends think of you. As soon as you get out of high school, you won't even see each other. Right? So all their pressure, like, oh, you have to do this and you have to do that. No, you don't. You don't have to do nothing. I'm like, make me. You have to drag me. Make me. I'm not doing it. Right? But if today is your last day, Anastasia, what would be your last words to impart on your family tree and the world who watches this?
I would say love yourself first.
Yeah, loving yourself. Thank you, Michelle. Hi, Raquel. Michelle says, thank you so much for today. Yeah, this is a conversation that could go on, but where can they find you, by the way?
It's Anastasia Gajkowska. So that will be for my social media. I know the spelling will be hard, but we can always add it. And exposenetwork.com, the website for the documentary, exposenetwork.com.
Yes, that is where she's at. Let me see if I can get her link to you guys before we end.
And send me a private message if you know anyone, or if you are going through some unhealthy relationships. I would like to invite you to my community, which is on Facebook. Yeah, I would like you to just feel empowered, and that's why we created that Facebook group, so we can support each other in the journey of healing, because that's what it takes, being staying connected and being part of bigger group also keeps us more I would say like energetically grounded, because
Yeah.
we check on ourselves, because of I think that's another way to prevent getting into abusive relationships in the future, having somebody like a sponsor to check how you are doing, because sometimes we still get to suppress those red flags, and it's just being around people who have your back, who love you, who appreciate you, who treat you with respect, is going to be a massive help. Thank you for having me. It was
Yeah, great support. Well, thank you everyone for being here. And Natalie's last message is, I love this conversation today. There are true gold nuggets for many to get from stories, exercises, and examples you both gave. All right. Well, thank you everyone.